In today's video, we are looking at defining classes. Now, a way of looking at a class is that it is a prototype or a set of properties that characterize an object. To better understand that, if we look at real-world objects that surround us, each thing has an attribute or behavior that we can describe. For example, a car might be described with the attribute color red and an acceleration behavior. Programming objects are like virtual representations of real-world objects that describe attributes and behaviors in the class structure. So the first thing we want to do is look at how we can define a class and use class methods and functions so that we can call that information. So if you look right here, it says class members can be referenced throughout a program using dot notation, suffixing the member name after the class name with syntax of class name dot method name with parentheses or class name dot attribute name. So those are some of the things that we can, or that's how we're going to call some of the things that we're going to create. Okay, so right here we have how to create a class or define a class. A class declaration begins with the class keyword, followed by the program specified name, adhering to all naming rules. Then you have a colon. Next comes an indented statement. This is optional. It does not have to be on there, but it's a document string that you can use to describe what your class is going to entail. And then you have any variable declarations or method definitions. So if we look at this, it says the class declaration, which specifies its attributes and methods, is a blueprint from which working copies or instances can be made. So when you create an instance of a class, you are creating its own specific object that you are going to be able to manipulate. All variables declared within method definitions are known as instant variables and are only available locally within the method in which they are declared. They cannot be directly referenced outside the class structure. Now, typically, instance variables contain data passed by the caller when an instance copy of the class is created. As the data is only available locally for internal use, it is effectively hidden from the rest of the program. Now, this is called data encapsulation, which ensures that data is securely stored within the class structure and is the first principle of OOP, object-oriented programming. Now, all properties of the class are referenced internally by the dot notation prefix self. So an attribute named sound is self.sound. Additionally, all method definitions in the class must have self as their first parameter. So the method name talk would be talk parentheses with self in the parentheses. When a class instance is created, a special initializing method called init self method is automatically called. Subsequent parameters can be added in the parentheses if values are passed. So let's look at how that would look. So here we have class critter. We've got the class definition, and then we have critter is the name, colon, and now I have my document statement saying a base class for all critter properties. I have a variable here called count, and then I have my two methods, my initializing method, and then a method called talk. These right here are two underscores, so it's def, then two underscores, init, two underscores. I have self, and then I have what I'm passing to it, self.sound equal chat. So I'm going to pass it some words, and that's going to be placed into self.sound. Critter.count plus equals 1. So count is outside the method. So in order to use it, I need to call critter. Def talk self return self.sound. So let's look at or examine this a little bit more closely. So the variable count is a class variable whose integer value gets shared among all instances of this class. So because it's right here, every instance can use this count. The value can be referenced as critter.count from inside or outside the class. Now the first method, the init method, is the initialization method that is automatically called when an instance of the class is created. The init method is, in this case, an instance variable sound with a value passed chat parameter and increments the value of the count class variable whenever an instance of the class is created. Now the second method, talk, is declared like a regular function except the first parameter is self, which is automatically incorporated. No value needs to be passed. The talk method in this case simply returns the value encapsulated. And we're going to actually program this in just a minute in our next section. So if you'd like to, type this up so you can see how it's typed up, you're more than welcome. If you have any questions about any of the information that I went over, please let me know.